Have you heard the saying that everything is energy? If you read the quantum mechanics and you look at the explanation of how it works, it actually makes sense. Everything is energy. And when you think about your experiences throughout the day, think about where the energy is. Sometimes you'll meet people and they're high vibe, they make you feel better, you feel lighter, you feel just more comfortable with them, and that is a higher energy. Turn on a happy song and you can't help but dance, you can't help but smile, higher energy. If you listen to something that's very melancholy and very down, just kind of slower and more heavy and more dense, you can feel your body, if you're paying attention, you can feel your body actually just start to respond to that. Sometimes the words might be uplifting, but the beat behind it, the energy behind it, isn't there. So today I read a book and actually started it last night and finished it this afternoon. And the book promised to be a book that kind of helped you to understand when things were hard, how things were and how to make the best out of it, that type of thing. But I didn't find it to be that. It started out very straightforward, very tell it like it is. And I've been in that place before where it's kind of like tell it like it is, just be straight, be honest, unfiltered from where you are in the world. And so as I'm reading this story, it is very straightforward, very frank, very honest, very in your face, life sucks. And so as she's talking about the prosperity gospel and she's talking about all of these things, I'm thinking, okay, well, she's going to turn this around and explain how we can find solace in what is going on. But ultimately, the entire message of the book was, life sucks, get over it. So while she's talking about how she's always happy and upbeat and putting on this face for the world, she reveals in her memoir that that's actually just a facade. And she pretty much gets into a space where she just dislikes everybody in the world because she's miserable. And I can see where that would happen. Like, if you're miserable, you're gonna be miserable. And some people live in that miserable place, and some people live in a happier place. I had a friend who had leukemia, and she got it, and she had days that were hard. But honestly, she, at her core, was positive and upbeat, and she knew what she wanted. She knew where she was at. So as she was receiving her chemo treatments and the blood transfusions and everything, she would give them names that would be like her healing juice and things like that. And she stayed alive for a year. When she went in, she wasn't supposed to stay alive for that long. So the fact that she stayed along as long as she did was amazing. And the people that she touched as a result of it was really pretty cool. And everybody who knows her and who knew her will tell you the same thing, that she lived that higher vibration. And life isn't easy, and there's a lot of stuff that happens, a lot of stuff that goes on. Some days it's really hard, and other days it's not as hard, and some days it's kind of like, okay, it's just normal. And how long that really hard lasts depends on how long I jump into that really hard place. So if I go into the really hard place and I start focusing on that vibration of hard, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed as you start giving a voice to what it is, it becomes more and more and more real? So, in this book, she called it the prosperity gospel. I don't think it's limited to the prosperity gospel. I think it's also very much a large part of the self-help world, where we are expected to take something, to deny the feelings that we're having, and turn them around and immediately put on a happy face and immediately be like, yay, this is okay. And that's not necessarily going to do it, because if you're not addressing your feelings, if you're not allowing yourself to live in that moment, then you're denying yourself your chance to be human. I mean, we're here to be human. I believe that we are spirits having a human experience. And if we are spirits having a human experience, if every time humanity tries to hit us, we say, oh, no, 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 I personally believe that we're going to have more opportunities for life to hit us in that way until finally we acknowledge the fact that, holy crap, I'm human. So congratulations, you're human. Congratulations, you feel something. Whatever it is that you're feeling, feel it. Sometimes have you ever noticed where something, if it's really bothering you, you'll hit it and then you'll be like, oh no, I'm not gonna address that. I'm gonna turn on my happy face. And then an hour later it comes back and it hits you and it's like, oh no, I'm gonna turn that around. I'm gonna put on my happy face. And then an hour later it hits you and oh no, and pretty much your entire day now gets taken up with trying to address this thing. So what if for one moment, 5 minutes, set your timer for 5 minutes and really feel it. Let yourself be miserable. For 5 minutes, be human. For 5 minutes, acknowledge the fact that this sucks. And I hate how bad this sucks. And I don't want this to be what this is. I'm not happy with this life. I don't want this life. And feel all of that suckiness that is there. And then, when your timer rings, ask a question. Okay, so what do I want instead? If I don't want this suckiness, what do I want? Because if the only thing you can figure out is that you don't want the suckiness, you'll bring along something that isn't the suckiness. But as soon as you get to that place where it isn't the suckiness, all of a sudden you're going to realize, you're going to start breathing. You're going to be like, oh, it's not sucky. But the suckiness is going to catch you because you were running away from it. And eventually it's going to catch up to you. And eventually it's going to find you where you've landed. And it's going to be like, guess what? We're sucky. And you're going to be like, oh crap, I don't like this suckiness. And then you're going to run a little bit farther and you're going to get tired of running from the suckiness. And you'll be like, okay, no suckiness, no suckiness, no suckiness. And then it's going to catch up with you because that's what it does. So in that moment where you recognize, I don't want the suckiness, ask the question, well, what do I want instead? What do you want instead? If you don't want suckiness, what blessings do you want? And why do you want them? If you want money, do you want money so you won't be broke? Or do you want money so that you can do good things with it? Do you want money do you want to pay off your bills so you don't have debt? Or do you want to pay off your bills so that you can have integrity with the people who have trusted you? If you don't want chaos, what do you want? I don't want a mess. Okay, but what do you want instead of a mess? Okay, well, I want order. And if you think about that order, here's the trick. If you think about that order, and you think about that thing that you do want, you think, okay, more than anything, I want a clean house. For me, that's what it is. More than anything, I want a clean house. I don't want chaos. And so I get things cleaned up and then chaos comes right back. And so as I don't want chaos, and I want order. When I say I want order, then the question is, well, how does that show up for you, that order? So if the order that you do want is something that you can't have for some reason, whether it is because you're not worthy, or because there's an emptiness to it, or because there is something else that's going on with it, when you think about having that order, if that order isn't safe, then it's not going to be enough for you. So I want order. Why do I want order? I want order because when there is order, there is peace. And why do I want peace? I want peace because when there is peace, I can think. I can connect. I can become one with God. I can channel those things that I channel. I can be me when there's peace. I can be me when there's order. And what happens when I'm me? What happens if I become me? Well, if I become me and step out into all of who I am, I risk being seen. And if I risk being seen, then I risk being rejected. And if I'm rejected, what does that mean about me? It's an interesting thought process. But that's where it comes from, because if you can't get to a place of what you want without what you want being safe, then when you get what you want, you're going to fall back. So this goes back into the comfort zone. This goes back into the uncomfortable pair of shoes. This goes back to the being interested instead of being committed. All of this ties together. In order to get clear on what you want, you need to get specific. In order to cure yourself of those places where you have that rocky foundation, it's very specific. You can't just take a broom and go over it and say, okay, I'm going to get everything here. Sometimes you need to go in there with a magnifying glass and be like, oh, look, here's a fissure in the ground right here. I need to address that. And so you go in and you clean out all of the debris, and then you fill it back in. And you fill it back in with something strong and something solid. So, back to the everything is energy. If you're feeling yourself being down, if you're feeling yourself running away, if you're feeling yourself in that negative place, be okay feeling it. But then let it go. Let it pass. You don't have to jump into the mud. You can acknowledge that the mud is there. And if you're in it, feel it. And then when you get out of it, wash yourself off. Flood yourself with the affirmations of who you are, what you want, how you want to do it, why you want what you want. And in doing that, you're washing that mud off of you. You're allowing yourself to raise your vibration. Don't let the mud dry. Because when the mud dries, it cakes on and you can't move. You can't move forward. You can't become who you can be because you're in this crust of filth. You may have gotten out of the situation, but if you're still wearing the mud, you're not going anywhere fast. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to slow you down. It's going to dim your light. So wash it off. Shake it off. Turn on some happy music. Listen to something that's uplifting. Find somebody who is where you want to be. And take that one step that you need to take that is going to help you to become closer to who you want. Do you want to be negative and dark and depressed and just end of the world? Or do you want to be somebody who is a light, somebody who is inspiring, somebody who can see the good in absolutely every experience? There's nothing wrong with being able to see the good in every experience. There's nothing wrong with being able to see the lesson. There's nothing wrong with being able to turn it around. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that it needed to be turned around in the first place. If you're ready to take the next step up, if you are ready to get out of the glum, to get out of the yuck, to wake up to what life has to offer, set your timer. Be in that yuck, and then at the end of the timer, ask yourself, what do I want instead? And if I had what I wanted, how would I feel? And if you figure out that what you would feel is not safe, then find a way to clear that thing that isn't safe. Find a way to turn it around. Find a way to make it work for you, so that in the end, you will be able to actually maximize who you are and achieve the life that you want to live. I'm April Davis.